Chapter 17, 17 Entrance Exam. We took the 10 months to train and study for the UA exams. Himiko decided that she wanted to become a heroine by my side. I focused heavily on training my body and my Kagune, but I also studied a lot. I've been practicing new things. I learned that I can discard my Kagune, make it hard and immobile like a wall, or even leave it more flexible. It's a shame that I can't control the Kagune outside of my body, but I've been thinking of some creative ideas. My Yukaku and Baikaku finally appeared, but they're a bit peculiar. I use them more as a trump card than anything else, at least for now. Himiko also focused a lot on physical training, mainly on reflexes and accuracy, and she's very good at it. We've been testing her transformation quirk, trying to find a way around the clothing problem, which I think I might have come up with a good idea to solve. Himiko can also use my Rinkaku when she transforms into me. It seems weaker than the original, but it's enough. February 23, 9:30 a.m. Entrance Exam Day. I walk with Himiko by my side, passing through the large entrance of UA. The two of us observe the grandeur of the place with curiosity. The sky is clear, a perfect day for the exams. We see a large number of students walking and chatting with each other, all wearing different uniforms from their own schools. Among them, a messy-looking blonde boy yelling at a shy green-haired boy seems to stand out. We ignore the commotion and head to take the written exam. We studied a lot, so it should be easy. I thought it was pretty easy. How did it go for you? I ask Himiko beside me. She has to lift her head a little to look me in the eyes. Same here. I thought it would be harder. The main thing is the practical exam. The written one is more like a filter, I say as we walk toward the auditorium, where they'll explain the exam. I sit next to her in one of the rows, waiting. Then the screen on the stage lights up with a gigantic UA symbol. In front of the screen, a blond man with a piercing voice shouts. To all the candidates tuned in, welcome to my show today. Everybody, say hey. Silence. The silence doesn't seem to shake the man at all, as he continues talking. What a refined response. I'll quickly present a summary of the practical exam. Are you ready? Yeah. Silence. I seem to hear someone say with an excited voice, it's the voice hero, present mic. Amazing, followed by some nonsense and a short, dry shut up coming from someone else. Weird people. I exchange a look with Himiko, which almost makes her burst out laughing when she sees my expression, probably only changing slightly, but enough for her to notice and find it funny. Summing up what Present Mike said, we'll have a 10-minute battle, being separated into areas ranging from A to G. I glance at my card. I'm in Field C, while Himiko is in A. There are 3 types of fake villains, each worth a different number of points, in sequence, 1, 2, and 3 points each. The presentation is interrupted by a guy asking about there being 4 robots on the printed sheet and saying that if it was a printing error, UA should be ashamed, since it's the most prestigious school in Japan. The guy even points at another student and complains that he should stop muttering because it's getting on his nerves. What? I exchange another look with Himiko, incredulous, eyes narrowed. She can barely hold back her laughter again and gives me a light tap on the shoulder. Apparently, the last robot is worth 0 points, serving more as an obstacle than a target. After we leave, we're taken to our respective buses, which will take us to our designated fields. Good luck, Himi. I say goodbye to Himiko before we're led to our respective buses. Good luck, Kaneki-kun. She gives me a mischievous smile and heads to her bus. I head to mine as well. I warm up in front of the gigantic test field gate. Looking around, I see most of the students trying to control their anxiety. Tech. The snap of my fingers echoes through the restless crowd, making a few gazes fall on me, only to quickly turn away. Looks like I left my Kagune active by accident, whatever. I turn off the Kagune, since it won't work against robots and I don't want to disturb the others. Let's begin. I hear the examiner shout from atop the tower. What's wrong? There's no countdown in real battles. He adds. As soon as he finishes those words, I dash forward, activating my Rinkaku and using it to swing between buildings. Then I find a 2-point robot. Target found. I will kill you. The robot roars threateningly with a pre-programmed cliché phrase, but it's immediately immobilized by a swing of my Kagune. This is a strange test. I think after decapitating another robot. It doesn't seem fair to people without combat-oriented quirks, even if these robots don't seem very complicated. Target fu. The phrase doesn't even finish before I pierce the machine's body with my Kagune. I hear a sound in the distance. It seems like some students are having trouble with the robots. I decide to help. Since this is a hero course, there must be some compensation for heroic acts, right? To be honest, I didn't pay much attention to the presentation. Just the part about breaking the little robots. My Kagune pulls the young man away before he can be crushed by the robot. I take the opportunity to pierce the robot with another free tentacle. Thank you. He says, still a bit shaky. You're welcome. I leap across the buildings, trying to find more opportunities for points, or to help people. A dark green-haired girl jumps between 3 robots, looking a bit overwhelmed by the number. I decide to help. I crash down onto a 3-point robot with my Kagune, instantly crushing it, leaving the other 2 for her. Thanks, Kuro, she says as she uses her tongue to disable the other 2 robots. I continue swinging through the buildings, helping some students and collecting points, when I feel the ground shake. Then, from the dust, a massive robot emerges, beginning to advance toward the students, each step making the ground tremble violently. Tech. This, should I break that? I murmur, hanging from a building as I watch the 0-point robot. I shake my head, clearing the dangerous thoughts from my mind. My method of defeating the robots already seems very aggressive, so it's best to be careful with my actions. My gaze shifts to the students fleeing from the giant robot, some tripping or frozen in fear. Tisk. I leap from the building and use my Kagune to pull students out of harm's way. Beside me, I see a red-haired girl with a huge fist carrying other injured students. The frog girl I helped earlier is also rescuing others. I continue moving students out of the way. A warning about the remaining time echoes through the artificial city, but I barely hear it, still thinking about taking down the giant robot. But it would take too much energy, and probably wouldn't even be worth it. The robot then freezes, followed by an announcement signaling the end of the exam. I feel my body tingle and snap my fingers restlessly. Maybe I should have broken that robot. I hope I get another chance. A/N. A thing I forgot to mention during the A/NS, Himiko is a year younger here. This way she fits in with the age of the rest of the students in 1A. I've also been thinking about creating a page on the PETR30N for support. I could post advanced chapters, spoilers, content about future projects, and other stuff there. Would anyone be interested? And just to be clear, everything would still be released here for free eventually, following the normal upload schedule. Chapter 18, the letters from UA. 1 week after the exam. I'm sitting next to Himiko on the couch, each of us holding a letter from UA. We look at each other, and with a nod, we open the letters at the same time. Inside the letter there's a small coin-shaped device. The device blinks, and a hologram of All Might appears. The audio overlaps as the man talks about becoming a teacher at UA. Himiko grabs hers and goes to our bedroom. Congratulations, young Kaneki. You placed first in the practical exam with a total of 83 points. In addition to achieving an excellent score on the written exam. Welcome to UA, young man. The hologram blinks, showing the scoreboard. I see my name at the top, with 52 villain points and 31 rescue points. I search for Himiko's name on the board, and I find myself smiling when I see her name in 6th place. At the same time, Himiko comes back into the living room with an equally radiant smile. We passed. She jumps and hugs me happily. POV of Nisa, principal of UA. While analyzing the documents of the new students, I notice something strange in the paperwork of this year's first place, Ken Kaneki. The documents are official and reliable, but why did he have no records until the age of 3? I remember Midnight getting very excited when she saw the boy on the screen, not her usual perversion, but something almost nostalgic, even proud. She didn't take her eyes off the screen for a single second. I'll call her to my office, since she seemed to know the boy. I might get some answers. After the conversation with Midnight, and a thorough search through the hidden data of the Hero Commission. Abusive family members, sold to human traffickers. Remembering the conversation with Midnight as she spoke about the boy's conditions made my chest tighten more and more. Used as an experiment and tortured by a psychopath. I look at the images of the macabre drawings found in the office of the man who kept the child captive. His story deeply affects me, even more so because I went through something similar myself, having been used as an experiment. He was recently emancipated, probably couldn't get a family due to the trauma. Despite everything, he still said he wanted to be a hero. Midnight commented on the light in his eyes when he said those words to her, even though he had just gone through something terrible. I hear a knock on the door and glance at the clock. Right, Toshinori should be coming by around this time. You may come in, I say without taking my eyes off the computer. All Might's skeletal form enters the room, closing the door behind him. He quickly notices my unease. Something wrong, Sensei? It's unusual to see you like this, he says as he walks over to sit in front of my desk. It's about this year's first place. Is there a problem with him? I see the concern on his face. I turn the monitor toward him. All Might starts reading and viewing the documents, and with each line, his expression worsens. Research. He furrows his brows. Apparently, the former doctor wanted to find a way to regenerate limbs. He himself used a prosthetic leg. I don't remember any news about a child being tortured and held captive. He rubs his eyes. It was covered up by the Hero Commission, after a request from the hospital where the doctor worked. It would have damaged the hospital's reputation, I say in a dark tone. All Might continues reading the report. Refused psychological assistance. The treatment would have been deducted from the money the hospital itself gave him. I want to help this young man. It's a miracle he didn't lose his mind and become a villain, I say, now in a softer tone. With the quirk he showed during the exam, he would be extremely dangerous if he became a villain, All Might says, and I agree, remembering how the red tentacles pierce the robot's defenses with ease. I'll talk to him when he joins us. I think he'll be happy to see Midnight again. POV of Kaneki. 3 weeks before the start of classes. Seated, I observe the papers on the table, which require us to submit our request for our hero costumes. Himiko, sitting across from me, is also reading a copy of the same papers. I think I'll go with something more discreet, kind of stealthy. I think a mask would be cool too. Or a cape. Maybe a utility belt. Maybe I freeze when I notice the look Himiko is giving me as I passionately talk about my costume. She's leaning slightly forward, both arms resting on the table, holding her face with both hands as she watches me with a dreamy expression, eyes shining with affection and a soft smile on her face. What? I feel my entire face turn red, my posture completely destroyed by the way she's looking at me. You're really cute when you talk about what you like, teehee. Her smile widens, and she lets out a soft giggle that tugs at my heart. Unfair. Then I give a mischievous smile. I quickly stand up and go to her, grab her, and start tickling her. She squirms, and we roll around on the floor, laughing and playing. Ha 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 ha. Her hysterical laughter echoes through the small apartment like a soft melody to my ears. We stop rolling around the living room, still lying on the floor, with her on top of me. We look at each other's faces affectionately. Himiko caresses my face and gives me a long, lingering kiss on the lips. Come on, we still need to draw the costumes. I stroke her head as she rests her face on my chest. I want something matching in our costumes, Himiko says, her voice muffled. Okay, we'll put something matching. Yippee. I chuckle a bit at the little victory squeal she lets out after my confirmation. My thoughts return to the costume. How should I make it? I need to think of something that won't interfere with my Kagune. Besides that, for Himiko, the idea I had to solve the problem of her clothes being dissolved by her quirk seems to work. It's basically using my Kagune to form a temporary outfit. I can now program my Kagune after discarding it to do some simple things, like restraining the nearest individual, or, in Himiko's case, quickly forming an outfit for her. It ended up in the shape of a ring, which isn't dissolved by her quirk. When activated, it forms a layer of Kagune over her skin, while the sludge from her quirk is still on top. After the first layer over the skin, it forms a light segmented armor on top. It can last for quite a while and returns to the ring after some time, or whenever she wants it to. It was a lot of work to make, but it was worth it. Himiko couldn't use it during the exam, so she didn't even use her transformation. I'm still discovering more about my programmable Kagune. It seems to work well as support items, since when linked to a user they can perform more complex actions, like, in Himiko's case, forming a complete outfit. One problem is that after a few uses, I need to recharge it with my own fresh blood. But since Himiko is always with me, it's not such a big problem. A/N, more information about the disposable Kagune in the next chapter. Teehee. Also, this chapter has a different format, without the larger spaces after the paragraphs. Do you prefer it this way, or the way it was in previous chapters, Chapter 19, Class 1A? About my disposable and programmable Kagune. The energy cost to produce loose fragments like this is considerable, especially the programmed ones, which consume a lot. Bloodthirst also increases significantly after the process, making heavy use in battles almost unviable. Tearing pieces off my Kagune is no different from cutting off a limb. It hurts like hell, but I can handle it. The torn Kagune can have some basic programming, such as wrapping itself around a nearest object, or none at all, simply remaining still as it was removed. Each Kagune can have a different function when discarded. My Rinkaku, tentacles, can become flexible and slash or compact. My Kaukaku, arms, can become hard and dense like a wall. My Yukaku, shoulders, can have its projectiles torn off for later use. I can program the basic projectiles to do different things, such as not being lethal, so the projectile fragments upon hitting the target instead of piercing it as it normally would. My Baikaku, tail, doesn't have a unique function of its own, but it's what allows the others to be programmable. So when I discard my Kagune with a specific command, it's actually a mix of my Baikaku with the other Kagune. Items made from detachable Kagune can have hosts, functioning based on specific stimuli or even touches on the Kagune's surface. To replenish the items or any discarded piece, I need to use my blood, otherwise, they fragment into nothing. To make Himiko's ring, I used my Rinkaku. I had to tear off all my tentacles 4 times while trying to make it work. The programming was done through a fragment of my Baikaku. The stimulus is the presence of the sludge when she returns to her normal form, so the ring forms the outfit. It can be removed with 2 quick taps on it, accepting only my finger or Himiko's. Himiko can also use the ring before transforming, thus protecting her clothes from being disintegrated. However, the transformation ends up using the Kagune outfit, which removes the perfect imitation factor. I had issues with recognizing the sludge from her quirk, but I managed to find a difference between the transformation and the return to normal form. I want to stay a good while without making new items. Making the ring was terribly time-consuming and very stressful. I need to find a way to make the process easier. Until then, I'll only make simple things, like preparing my yukaku projectiles for Himiko to use as throwables. First day of class. Finally, Himiko and I are standing in front of the same imposing UA gate, this time to study here instead of just taking the entrance exam. Image. There are still a few minutes before classes begin, so we walk side by side through the enormous school building. In my past life, my school didn't even have a second floor. I think as I climb the stairs. Next time, we should use the elevators. I glance to my side. Himiko seems a bit restless. At some point, she stopped masking her true self in middle school, and her old friends quickly drifted away. I'm sure the people here will understand us, Himi, I say softly, placing my hand on her shoulder. She takes a deep breath. I hope so. She seems a bit more upbeat, but I still notice her anxiety. Tech. I snap my finger. I'm not much better. I think, feeling just as uneasy. We finally stop in front of the huge door of Class 1A, which has, an Among Us. I stare at the suspicious figure on the door until Himiko gives my arm a light pinch, snapping me back to reality, and then I open the sliding door. Inside the classroom, there aren't many people yet, only two, actually. I recognize one of them as the dark green-haired girl from the exam. Himiko sits behind her, and I sit next to Himiko. She turns to look at me. You're that student from the entrance exam, Kuro. The one with the red tentacles, right? Nice to meet you, my name is Tsuyu Azui. Nice to meet you too, Azui-san, my NA. Call me Tsu. Okay, my name is Ken Kaneki, and this is him. My name is Himiko Toga, nice to meet you. Good grief, even Himiko decided to cut me off today. Noticing that we're greeting each other, the other girl who was sitting in the corner of the room stands up and walks toward us, with calm and confident steps, though I can tell she's a little restless too. My name is Momo Yayorozu. It's a pleasure to meet you. We nod, and the girls start chatting. Seeing that Himiko seems comfortable, I decide to rest my head on the desk and take a quick nap. Zzzzz. I wake up from my short nap to find the classroom already full, and the same glasses-wearing guy who complained during the entrance exam is arguing with a blonde boy who looks like he wants to kill someone at any moment. Then the glasses guy points his finger at me. And you? You shouldn't be sleeping in class. It's disrespectful to those who, blah blah blah. I just glance at him before stretching a bit, and then he goes back to arguing with the blonde. The door opens, and a timid-looking green-haired boy enters. The glasses guy goes over to him. Meanwhile, I rub my eyes and yawn, trying to shake off the sleepiness. I'm Midoriya, nice to meet you, Lita, and other things. I'm still too groggy to pay attention. I need to go to the bathroom, I think, feeling a bit uncomfortable. Maybe I shouldn't have drunk so much water before coming. Another girl appears and seems to recognize the green-haired boy. She gets excited and starts making some strange arm movements and odd sounds. I mean, it's fine to be excited to see someone you know, but she looks like a bird doing a mating dance. Even though it's the male who do the dances. I hear Himiko let out a quiet pfff as she covers her mouth with her hands, trying to hold back her laughter while watching the subtle changes in my face, signaling my concern for my classmates' mental sanity. Then the excitement is interrupted by a low, dark voice. Go somewhere else if you want to play at making friends. This is a superhero course. Silence fills the room as a yellow caterpillar enters the classroom. Then, From inside it, some kind of vagrant emerges. I turn to Himiko in disbelief, raising an eyebrow slightly. She tries her best not to look at my face, but she seems to notice my stare, and her cheeks begin to puff up and turn red. All right, it took 8 seconds for you to quiet down. Time is limited. You children aren't rational enough. I'm the homeroom teacher, Shota Izawa. Nice to meet you. I keep my face expressionless, but the name Shota makes me laugh internally. The students murmur in surprise at the apparent vagrant being our homeroom teacher. He pulls a blue tracksuit out of his sleeping bag as he speaks. It may seem sudden, but put this on and head to the yard. I take advantage of the pause and raise my hand. He nods, signaling for me to speak. The room seems to freeze in anxious silence, waiting for my question. Can I go to the bathroom? I ask with my neutral expression. PFFF. Apparently, my classmates expected me to say something serious or ask a genuine question, judging by the suppressed laughter and attempts to hide their faces. The one having the hardest time holding back laughter is Himiko beside me, who has already lowered her head onto the desk to hide her red face. Sigh. Fine, but don't take too long, Izawa replies, with the same lazy tone as before. I leave the classroom and quickly head to the bathroom, which is quite luxurious, by the way. After relieving myself, I head to the men's locker room. A/N. I hope I remember to include this information about Kanaki's powers in the supplementary chapter. I know that part about the disposable Kagune was a bit strange. I'll try to improve how I present powers later. Izawa's first name is funny in Portuguese because it sounds like one of the ways to say pussy. Haha, funny stuff, sigh. Also, Chapter 20, 20 Test. I arrive at the locker room door and see that most of them have already finished changing and are heading to the courtyard. I quickly change and run to the courtyard, finding the group gathered there and joining them. Looks like I didn't miss anything yet. I stand next to Himiko while listening to the students talk with the teacher. You kids have been doing this since middle school, right? He raises his phone. Physical tests where you can't use your quirks. He says this and goes on a brief rant about the government, then looks at me. Kaneki, you placed first in the practical exam, right? The students look at me curiously, and the irritated blonde guy looks at me like I killed his dog. In middle school, what was your best result in the softball throw? Izawa continues. 83 meters, I reply calmly. Even if it's been a long time since you last took a measurement. Then try using your quirk. I stand in the middle of a white circle drawn on the ground. Feel free, as long as you stay inside the circle. Hurry up, give it everything you've got. Tech. I snap my fingers, the hem of my shirt is thrown back, a black stain appears on my back, and from it 4 tentacles of my Rinkaku emerge. Ignoring the surprised murmurs from my classmates and how some instinctively step back a few paces, I lift the ball and hand it to a tentacle. All 4 tentacles spin and tangle together, seeming to merge into one around the ball. I throw my body to the side and whip my Kagune, launching the ball as I spin my tentacles back to their initial position. The ball shoots off at high speed, spinning and rising high into the sky. Start by becoming aware of your maximum, Izawa says. This is the most rational way to build the foundation of a superhero, he continues. He raises his phone, showing 578,6 meters displayed on the screen. At 578,6 meters, one student comments. Sounds fun, a pink-skinned girl says. Using quirks freely. This is the hero course, another guy says excitedly. Sounds fun? You have 3 years to become superheroes. Are you going to keep that attitude the whole time? Izawa's voice cuts through the students' excitement. Alright, whoever places last overall in all 8 tests will be judged as having no potential and will be punished with expulsion. He gives a somewhat macabre smile. Murmurs among the students. The last place gets expelled, a brown-haired girl says. It's just the first day of class. No, even if it weren't the first day, that would be way too unfair, she adds. Natural disasters, major accidents, and selfish villains, Aizawa starts speaking again. Calamities whose time or location are unpredictable. Japan is full of injustice. Superheroes are those who overturn these situations. Go beyond, plus ultra, go with everything you've got. More murmurs from the students. Back at my spot, Himiko nudges me while the teacher continues talking. Congratulations on the result, Kaneki-kun, she whispers. I nod to her in thanks. She seems confident about passing, and now with the ring, she doesn't need to worry about ending up completely naked when deactivating her quirk. Alright, the demonstration is over. Now it's for real. The tests begin. First, the 50-meter dash. My Kagune didn't help much, since I had nowhere to latch onto and launch myself from the track, so I only managed to use it for propulsion at the start. Himiko couldn't get a better transformation right now, so she chose to go without using her quirk. She did pretty well. Grip strength test, I used my Rinkaku for this one too and got 437 kilograms. I know I could have gotten more points if more tentacles fit on the measuring device. Unfortunately, I could only use one, and even then I had to reduce its size quite a bit. In the long jump, I simply used my Kagune to get to the other side. Himiko just jumped normally, she's quite athletic, so she passed easily. In the repeated side jump test, I couldn't think of a good way to do it. I guess just swinging from side to side while my Kagune held me would be cheating, or not. I'm not sure, the teacher didn't stop me, so it must count. In the ball throw, since I had already gone, I didn't need to repeat it. Himiko transformed into me, wearing the ring outfit over her clothes this time, which helps keep her previous clothes intact. I saw people looking curious about Himiko's quirk, and without realizing it, I lifted my chin, feeling proud of my girlfriend. I didn't forget to praise her when she returned to my side. When it was the brown-haired girl's turn, whose name I learned was Eureka, after the teacher called her, she got infinity. Impressive. When it was that Midoriya guy's turn, he threw the ball, which landed at a measly 46 meters. He looked surprised. But I tried to use it, he says while looking at his own hand, seeming anxious. I erased your quirk, Aizawa says, now looking threatening, with his hair and scarf bindings floating. Those glasses, I get it. Midoriya exclaims when he notices the glasses hanging around Aizawa's neck, previously hidden by the scarf. The boy looks surprised by the discovery, but still somewhat in shock at having his quirk erased. You cancel quirks just by looking at them. The erasing superhero, Eraserhead. Aizawa scolds Midoriya for a while, then restores his quirk and gives him another chance. Midoriya seems to think of something, then throws the ball, causing a furious gust of wind across much of the courtyard. 705.3, the robot with the annoying voice shouts. Damn. A little further than the angry explosion blonde guy. Sensei. I can still move. Midoriya says while holding his broken index finger. Why did the teacher block his quirk? Oh, the broken finger, so he still doesn't control it properly, I think to myself. What does that mean? I hear a shout beside me. Damn it. The blonde guy runs toward Midoriya. Why does he look so pissed at Midoriya? I tilt my head to the side. What was that, Deku? Explain it now, you bastard. He shouts. Then Aizawa restrains him using his capture bindings. Tisk, don't make me use my quirk all the time, I've got dry eyes. He then releases the blonde guy, who stands there growling, while Midoriya simply walks around him and returns to the group. Seriously, it feels like I'm watching a bad romantic comedy, I sigh, exchanging a glance with Himiko. The tests continue. Himiko and I did well in the long distance run. Then came sit ups and, reaching for your toes while seated. Okay, that last one was a weird test. Himiko did better than me on that one. I could have forced myself more and broken my bones to reach farther, but that didn't seem like a good idea. When the final test ends, I see Midoriya collapse onto the ground, panting. He didn't do well in the last tests, it seems the broken finger really held him back. I offer my hand to him. He hesitates for a moment, but then takes it, and I help him up. Thanks, he says, already looking discouraged. I just pat him on the shoulder and wait for the results. Alright, I'll quickly go over the results. Aizawa begins. The total is simply the scores you got in each test. It's a waste of time to explain, so I'll show you everything at once. He presses a button on a remote, and a projection appears. Third place, and Himi got 6th. Not bad. I exchange a discreet nod with Himiko. Midoriya is in last. I glance at the dejected boy. Oh yes, that whole expulsion thing was a lie, the teacher speaks again. It was a logical ruse, to make you give your best, he says with a small smile. Way-ay-ay-odd, the students shout. Come on, guys, it was obvious it was a trick. Yaoyorozu says, but I still have my suspicions. Right, with that, we're done. Your individual score sheets are back in the classroom, so take a look. With that my suspicions only grow stronger. Midoriya, find the recovery girl and get that treated. He hands Midoriya a slip of paper and then turns to me. And Kaneki, Principal Nizu asked to see you in his office. Okay. I exchange a look with Himiko. She looks worried, but I imagine it's probably nothing. Let's see what this is about. A/N, try not to take these numbers as fact. I mean, even in the original version they didn't seem completely accurate. And also, we reached 500k views. Thank you so much for all the support and for following along. Chapter 21, 21 Principal's Office. I stand still in front of the principal's office door, still wearing the training hoodie. I take a deep breath. Knock knock. I knock twice on the door. Come in, I hear a soft, muffled voice from the other side. Tech. I crack my fingers and open the door. Excuse me. Nemuri-san. I exclaim, surprised by the presence of a familiar figure inside the room. She gets up from the sofa and walks toward me with a smile, then gives me a tight hug. It's been so long, Kaneki-kun, she sings. I give a gentle smile. I haven't smiled with anyone other than Himiko in a long time. What are you doing here, Nemuri-san? I ask curiously. I became a teacher here a few years ago, she says with a smile. She releases me from the hug and gives me a few pats on the head. You've grown so much, you got really handsome, hee. I roll my eyes at her teasing tone. And you haven't changed at all. She seems happy with my comment. I make a mental note not to ask about her age. Sorry to interrupt the reunion, but we have matters to discuss, Nizu says while sipping some coffee. Nemuri and I sit side by side on the sofa, with Nizu in front of us in an armchair. Nizu is something of short stature, wearing a suit and orange sneakers. It's me, Nizu, the one who could be a dog or a mouse or a bear, but more importantly, I'm the principal. He says in an animated voice, posing slightly. So, Nizu-sensei, what did you need to talk to me about? I ask cautiously. You don't need to be so formal, and don't worry, you're not in trouble or anything. I let out a relieved sigh, which makes Nemuri giggle behind her hand. I know you went through something unpleasant when you were 3 years old. I nod my head. How have you been, Kaneki-kun? I notice how he has been observing me since I entered the room, watching my behavior. I think I'm doing well. Himiko has helped me a lot to get through all of that. Nizu seems to nod in satisfaction, and just as he is about to say something, Namuri exclaims beside me. Ara, only a few years have passed and you already found another girl, Kaneki-kun. She wipes away fake tears. You start dating and already forget your big sister. Wait, she really is your girlfriend. She widens her eyes and puts a hand over her mouth when I nod, confirming it. I figured, hee, Nizu laughs. You're even living together, you didn't even hide it in the records. Nizu's words make Namuri gape like a fish. Kaie. I haven't even met my sister-in-law yet. You use protection, right? I'm not ready to be an ant. Now it's my turn to look like a fish. Namuri-san. Midnight, let the boy breathe. Let's get back to the matter at hand. Nizu comes to my rescue. Alright, but I want to meet her outside the classroom. I agree with that. A few seconds of silence pass, and then I feel the atmosphere in the room grow heavy. Sigh, I know how it is, Kaneki-kun, being trapped against your will, serving as an experiment. He points to the scar running across his face. Unconsciously, I touch my chest, where my surgical scar is. I also know how challenging it is to return to society after going through something like that, and according to your records, even before that you didn't have a decent life. I can't think of any words to reply. I did have a good life before, one that kept me grounded, but there's no way they could know that. I want you to know that you can trust the teachers and me. If you need anything, we at UA will do our best to make it possible. I feel Namuri's hand rest on my shoulder. I was going to offer therapy, but I think you've been handling things well. Still, if you ever feel like you need it, don't hesitate to ask. I've been trying, and thank you, Principal Nizu. Just before the gates, I find Himiko leaning against a pillar, waiting for me. When she sees me, her smile widens and she comes running toward me. She hugs me, takes a sniff of the air, and then, despite still hugging me, she narrows her eyes in a way that sends a chill down my spine. I missed you, Kaneki-kun. But why do you smell like another woman? She says in a dangerous tone. I missed you too, Himi, I say quickly. Calm down, it's not what you think. I'll explain. She seems to calm down a little, but she's still quite threatening. I swallow hard and start telling her what happened in the principal's office. When I mention that I ran into Namuri, she finally relaxes and listens to the rest with curiosity as we walk together hand in hand. She wants to meet me. Himiko asks, a bit confused but excited. Yeah, she said she wants to meet her sister-in-law. Himiko just lets out a small laugh. She'll probably teach some classes for us first, but she said she wanted to meet you outside of school. Himiko nods in understanding. Almost home, I decide to buy an ice cream cone for both of us. She gets strawberry, and I choose vanilla and chocolate. What did you think of the people in our class? I ask Himiko as I take a bite of my cone. I don't know about the boys, but the girls are nice, and at least for now, they don't seem to care about how we are. Yeah, I didn't get much of a chance to talk to anyone because I had to go to the bathroom. Hee, people seem to have a good impression of you because of that. It helped break the tension after the teacher suddenly called us to the courtyard. I chew the last piece of the cone and toss the wrapper into a trash can. You think so? I hope I didn't accidentally activate my Kagune at some point. Relax, you didn't activate it today. To be honest, I thought you were going to when the guy with the glasses called you out. She frowned slightly. He was right, though. I shouldn't have fallen asleep, at least not after the bell rang. Himiko pouts but doesn't say anything else. Let's try to get along with everyone, Himi. Most of them seem nice. I wipe a bit of ice cream from the corner of her lips. I'll try. She tosses her wrapper into a trash can next to our apartment. Finally, we enter our apartment. I stretch my arms a little, wondering what the next day will be like. Chapter 22, 22 Combat Test. The beginning of the next day at UA was pretty ordinary, to be honest. We had normal classes before noon, like English with present mic. At lunchtime, Himiko and I went into the huge cafeteria and sat with Midoriya, Ida, and Eureka. The food made by Lunch Rush is really good. The guy even went from table to talk with the students. When afternoon classes finally arrived, the time when we would do heroics foundations, I saw a huge figure appear through the door. "I am Hiri." The booming voice echoed through the classroom. Entering through the door, like a normal person, the students burst into excitement as the man entered the room and started posing like a bodybuilder. "I can't believe it. All Might is really going to teach us. That's the Silver Age costume. Hero Function Studies. For this class, we'll be building your heroic foundations through various trials." All Might says, still posing. "Let's jump straight into it." The combat trial. The students become restless and excited, most with surprised faces or big smiles. And for us to move on to our first battle. With a click, the side wall opens into several capsules, and inside each one there is a suitcase with a number written on it. We prepared the equipment you requested so you can use your quirks. Our battle gear. Awesome. Excitement spreads through the room. Get changed and we'll be ready. Everyone gather in Area B. Already in the boys' locker room, all the boys open their suitcases, each one admiring their own costume. I look at my own suit and scratch my head, still unsure if I should have added more things, not that I can't make changes later. I take off my shirt, and then silence spreads through the locker room. I feel my classmates' gazes on me. Oh right, this probably isn't something very common to see. I remember my torso and arms covered in scars, along with the burned X-shaped mark on my back. "Dude, so manly," says the redhead, whose name is Kirishima. "Damn, what are those scars?" "That's badass," Kaminari says while putting on his own shirt. "Thanks. I think." I keep getting dressed, not noticing the longer look Todoroki and Shoji gives to the X-shaped burn mark on my back. We finally arrive at the entrance to Area B, where All Might watches everyone with his characteristic smile. I spot Himiko and go over to her. "The costume looks good on you, Kaneki-kun," Himiko says. "Yours looks good too." My costume is a simple black uniform with red stripes. I decided on something more stealthy and focused on infiltration. The most eye-catching part is the Kaneki mask from Tokyo Ghoul, just without the eye patch. There's a Velcro fastened strap on my back where the Kagune can come out without tearing the whole suit. It's quite simple, because in reality, it's just a substitute, since we couldn't think of anything better, so we took some of our ideas and created this. We would replace it later. Himiko's costume also isn't very complex. She took my idea of having a more discreet, stealthy outfit, and it ended up looking quite similar to mine, with a dark base color and yellow stripes. She also wears the same mask, matching with me, along with a copy of the tooth-patterned scarf I gave her. Another problem with having a more complex outfit is that she would end up melting it when she has to use her quirk most of the time, so having something simple is more practical. Image. Then I look to my side, only to see a pair of gloves floating. The gloves turn toward me and wave. I blink. They're still there. I rub my eyes, and they're still there, floating menacingly. "Himi, am I seeing ghosts?" I ask Himiko, looking at the gloves with a neutral expression, but terrified on the inside. They must be the ghosts of students who couldn't graduate. Poor souls. I say a silent prayer. "It's me," the floating gloves shout, shaking back and forth in anger. It's Hagakure-chan, you dummy, ha ha ha. Himiko starts laughing at me while I apologize to Hagakure. Let's see what you're made of, you babies. All Might shouts when he sees that we're all here. I like everyone's style. Very cool. He claps, and I notice his gaze fall on Midoriya before quickly looking away. It's time for the battle test. This battle test will be indoors. Generally, we apprehend villains in open areas, but strategically, indoor work is often the most important. Kidnappings, house arrests, the black market. In a society full of heroes, any intelligent villain operates from the shadows. In this test, you will be divided into villain and hero teams, for a 2-on-2 team battle. A barrage of questions is thrown at All Might, including Aoyama asking something about his own cape, so All Might asks for calm and pulls out a script. For this training, the villains will have to plant a bomb, and the heroes must stop them before it's too late. If the heroes capture the villains or reach the bomb before everything is over, they win. If the villains manage to protect the bomb site or capture the heroes, they win. Partners and opponents will be chosen at random. He pulls out a small box, and everyone starts drawing a slip of paper. I take my paper. Team F. I look around and see that my partner is Sato. I exchange a nod with him. First, we'll have Team A representing the heroes versus Team D representing the villains. All Might announces. So Midoriya and Uraraka versus Ida and Bakugo. I think, already seeing Bakugo yelling at Midoriya from a distance. I go with the group to the monitoring room. We can see the teams talking. Ida looks like he's trying to talk to Bakugo, while Uraraka and Midoriya are looking at the building map. I hang my mask around my neck after seeing Himiko do the same and keep watching the cameras, the match about to begin. The match starts, and Bakugo immediately charges at Midoriya. I focus on the fight, not paying attention to my surroundings, when suddenly. Plus Ultra. Everyone shouts, snapping me out of my trance and making me flinch a little at the volume. There must have been some speech or explanation of the exercise, anyway. I look back at the screen and see Ida completely immersed in the villain role, making exaggerated movements and probably saying a bunch of nonsense. Too bad we can't hear it. If I end up as a villain, I'll try doing that too, I say out loud and, without realizing it, activate my Kagune, making some students flinch. Scary. I don't want to end up against him. Mina and Kaminari think at the same time. Himiko reminds me to deactivate my Kagune with a light elbow to my ribs. The battle continues, then All Might shouts into the microphone that looks comically tiny in his hands. Young Bakugo. Stop. Don't use that. Bakugo ignores the warning and activates the gauntlet anyway, causing a huge explosion. The students panic, some ask All Might to stop the training exercise, but he doesn't seem willing to give in. Bakugo, my boy, if you create one more explosion like that, I will end the exercise and you will lose, he says into the microphone. Bakugo keeps beating on Midoriya, and Uraraka seems to be struggling to deal with Ida, until Midoriya throws a punch upward, breaking a good portion of the building and creating an opening for Uraraka to grab the bomb. The heroes team Weeeeeans. All Might announces. Do we have to kill each other in the exercise then? I scratch my head. A/N, yeah, the uniform will change later. I'm happy to announce that my P@TR30N will be available tomorrow, June 1st. P@TR30N, Condor 7. There you can tip me for my work, receiving as a bonus, advanced chapters, content about my new books, polls, and more. As I said in the auxiliary chapter, this is a hobby, so breaks may occur, and if that happens, I will give advance notice there. If there is no notice, know that the month's content is guaranteed. Though there's no need to worry about that anytime soon, I already have plenty of content prepared. The chapters there may come without the final review, which I do shortly before publishing, things like formatting or minor things, so there may be some differences in that regard. Since most of the readers are from EUA, around 20%, I've set the currency to US dollars. TF is a kilometer. As I've already said before, practically everything from there comes here for free, the goal is purely for support. Thank you. 3 Chapter 23, 23 MVP. The robots take Midoriya to the infirmary, while the rest return. Bakugo in particular has a bitter expression on his face. All Might names Ida as the MVP of the match and asks the students why, so Momo starts talking a lot about each person's mistakes, placing strong emphasis on Bakugo's. I watch Bakugo's expression worsen with every passing second. Shortly after, the next match begins, Hagakure and Ojiro as villains, and Todoroki and Shoji as heroes. The match ends quickly with Todoroki freezing the entire building. Dude, it's just an exercise. I feel somewhat tempted to ask All Might if the exercise is graded, and I just didn't hear it. Other battles happen, and then it's Himiko and Momo's turn as villains against Kaminari and Jiro as heroes. Good luck, I say to Himi as she leaves the monitoring room and prepares to enter the building alongside Momo. She gives a small smile and waves. POV Himiko Toga. So, Toga. I think I have an idea for us to win, Momo says as we take a look at the papier-mâché bomb. I'm listening, Yao-chan. She doesn't seem to mind me shortening her name, honestly, it's a complicated one to pronounce. First, can you transform into me? Like you did with Kaneki in yesterday's test. I nod. Yes, but I need to drink some of your blood. She looks a bit surprised but quickly composes herself, creates a syringe, draws her own blood, and hands it to me. I glance at my outfit. I don't want to melt it on the first day of wearing it. Yao-chan, can you make me a changing booth? I ask. She looks confused but starts anyway. She opens the front of her outfit, turning away from the security camera, and begins creating it. Oh, so you have to expose skin to create things, that explains your outfit, Yao-chan, I say playfully. She looks embarrassed. Sigh, yes. She seems a bit down, better not mention that she could add some zippers to her costume. Though, considering the level of exposure, Hagakure would easily take first place, even if no one could see anything. Thanks, Yao-chan, I say as I step into the booth, take off my clothes, keeping only my ring, and drink her blood. The amount should be enough for the entire exercise. I step out already with Momo's appearance. She watches me with a certain astonishment. I can't blame her, seeing yourself like that outside a mirror must be pretty strange. Incredible, can you use my quirk too? She asks while placing metal barricades on some doors. No, I can only do that if I drink more blood and have a stronger connection with the person. I drag the booth aside and store my clothes in a safe spot. Momo seems even more stunned hearing her own voice coming from me. Your quirk is amazing, Yao-chan, I say, looking at the metal barricades. Momo looks happy at the compliment and thanks me. So, what's the plan? I help her with some barricades and take the opportunity to ask. The plan is this. POV Kaminari. The match starts, and we enter the building. Jiro plugs her jacks into the wall to try to locate Toga and Yaoyorozu. At least we didn't go up against Kaneki. I think as I follow Jiro through the corridors. Watch out. Jiro shouts as she throws us to the ground. I hear the projectile that was thrown at us hit the wall with a loud sound. I quickly get up and look toward where the attack came from. I see Momo running, frustrated, her footsteps echoing through the halls. There. Let's get her. I start running, with Jiro right behind me, as Momo occasionally throws more of those strange projectiles backward. This is weird, something's wrong, Kaminari. Jiro suddenly stops, but I keep moving forward. Then I hear a shot and Jiro's scream behind me. Turning around, I see her trapped and immobilized in a large net. Then Momo appears beside her with capture tape in hand. No. Wait, if Momo is there, then. I turn just in time to see Momo's figure transforming into Kaneki, and with a disturbing, twisted smile, he says. Sorry, Kaminari-san. His voice is more melodic than usual. 4 red tentacles emerge from his back. Oh no. I sniff. POV Kaneki. Congratulations, Himi, I say to the bouncing figure in front of me, already dressed in her outfit, walking beside a somewhat disappointed Momo. I had planned something more complex. Momo complains. I can see the other pair, already downcast, looking even worse after hearing her grumbling. Himiko is declared MVP by All Might, and Ida gives the conclusions this time, without being too harsh on the already dejected losing pair. So for the final match, Team F as villains versus Team E as heroes. All Might announces. Tech. I crack my fingers as I head toward the exit. So it's our turn now, Sato-kun. He agrees with a snort and a nod. No. I hear Mina's cry of defeat in the distance, followed by and finally it's time to show my magnificent brilliance to the world, from Aoyama. Good luck, Himiko tells me before leaving. I nod at her. Already in the building, I stand beside Sato, observing the fake bomb. Your quirk increases your strength after eating sugar, right, Sato-san? He confirms with a thumbs up. I want to try something, here, see if you agree. I begin explaining the plan to him. His expression shifts between hesitation and excitement. Sounds cool, but isn't it kind of mean? I raise a smile behind the mask, or at least I think I do, but I remain as expressive as a rock. After a bit more discussion, we decide to try my plan, especially after I promise to tell everyone it was my idea later. POV Mina and Aoyama. We move through the corridors cautiously. Everything is too quiet, but every now and then, the sound of breaking glass echoes through the halls, becoming more frequent. Mina seems quite nervous but keeps moving forward. Then the two turn into a completely dark corridor. Mina blinks in confusion. They turn back just in time to see the lights behind them bursting one by one in the distance. The two run through the lit corridors as the sounds of breaking glass and something heavy being dragged echo through the building. Mina and Aoyama, already lost, search for some reference point on the map. Then a vibration echoes from the ceiling. The lights go out, leaving only a single light in their field of vision, which they run toward and stop beneath. 2 red eyes lurk in the darkness. Mina raises her guard. The eyes blink and get closer with each blink. Each time, their position changes, beside the corridor, on the wall, even on the ceiling. Aoyama fires his beam toward the eyes, lighting up the darkness, but nothing can be seen in its trail. Aoyama keeps firing as they continue running through the dark corridors. Despite her fear, Mina remains steady. Then suddenly Aoyama is thrown aside. Mina can only hear his scream echoing through the darkness, fading more and more. Mina feels herself being restrained by something. She struggles and uses her acid, but is held firmly. Then All Might's voice echoes through the speakers. The villains win. Then she is released from the restraints. POV Kaneki. That was too cruel, Kaneki-kun. Mina shouts at the red eyes watching her from the darkness. Sorry, at least it's a better experience than horror rides, right? Haha. I let out an awkward, dry laugh that echoes through the halls. Seeing her silence, probably sulking, I decide to add, "You're very brave, Ashido-san. I doubt most people could stay as steady as you did." That seems to improve her mood. Humph, call me Mina, idiot. I sigh in relief as she seems better, guiding her through the dark corridors to the exit. Good thing I scrapped the idea of breaking some walls. I think to myself. You even blocked the first floor windows, she complains, covering her eyes from the light as I remove the construction block from the window. Okay, I admit that was clever, she says reluctantly. We return to the monitoring room, Sato bringing a defeated Aoyama, who mutters something about his brilliance being blocked. Then I get my ear pulled. When it ends, I look up to see Himiko with her arms crossed. You went too far with Mina, Kaneki-kun, she huffs, apparently forgetting Aoyama was there with her. My bad, I apologize again to both of them, making the class and All Might burst into laughter. I receive the MVP result. Then we all gather again in front of Gate B. Good work, everyone. Aside from young Midoriya, there were no major damages. After a few more words, he prepares to leave. Then he seems to remember something and turns to me. Oh right, I almost forgot. Young Kaneki, Principal Nizu said the documents you requested are ready. You can stop by his office to pick them up. Then, in a burst of air and dust, he leaves. Already done. I only asked yesterday. I exchange a nod with Himiko, then head back to the locker room, change into my uniform, and go to Nizu's office. If you'd like to support my work and receive bonuses such as 5 to 10 advanced chapters, spoilers, early access to my new books, polls, and more, check out P@TR30N, Condor 7 Chapter 24, 24 The Weight of the Past. I prepare to leave Nizu's office, holding the envelope he handed me in one hand and my costume case in the other. Remember to burn the documents after reading them, Kaneki-kun, Nizu reminds me. I thank him and leave. I feel like I can truly trust Nizu. Just the fact that he handed me these documents, which could cause serious trouble for him, and even allowed me to take them to my apartment, trusting me with their disposal. I return to the classroom. When I walk in, some of the students already greet me. Tsuyu, Himiko, Eureka, and Toru's group approaches me as I return my costume case to the wall. Hey, Kaneki-kun, classes just started 2 days ago and you've already been to the principal's office twice. Toru says. Principal Nizu has been helping me with some documents, I'm not in trouble yet, I reply as I place the envelope in my backpack, slinging it over my shoulders. I notice Himiko's gaze lingering on the envelope, even after I put it away. She seems a bit anxious. I am too, although I hide it better than she does, since it's something I've wanted to see for a long time. Then Mina joins our circle, along with some others. Himiko quickly shifts her expression back to her usual cheerfulness. She moves closer to me, standing by my side. Hey Kaneki-kun, you know, after all the scare I went through during the exercise, I have to admit it was actually fun, it felt like I was playing a horror game. I blink, a bit confused by Mina's excitement. It really would make a good horror game, Jiro says. Kaminari nods, and Kirishima seems to consider the idea. It was also a learning experience. I'm going to add a flashlight to my costume so I don't go through that again, Mina says excitedly. Some of the others even seem thoughtful, considering adding something similar to their own costumes. Then it really would turn into a horror game, with a flashlight and all, I think to myself. Then Midoriya arrives in the classroom, still wearing his tattered costume and with his arm bandaged. The other students gather around him to introduce themselves and talk. Eureka, in particular, seems worried about his injuries. He asks about Bakugo, who apparently left shortly after I entered the room. Then Midoriya runs out of the classroom, looking determined to say something to Bakugo. From the window, the others and I watch the romantic comedy unfold, from Midoriya saying something to Bakugo, who yells something back and leaves rubbing his eyes, to All Might arriving in the conversation. I exchange a look with Himiko, followed by a shared sigh. It's time to go home. Already in our apartment, I sit on the couch with Himiko, the envelope in my hands trembling slightly. Confidential file. case, Jason. I open it and take out the stapled papers. The first thing I see is a photo with a very familiar face, a face that has haunted my nightmares, nightmares that disappeared after Himiko came into my life. I feel my scars tingle and the tremor in my hands increase. Himiko notices my unease and places her hand on my thigh. Kaneki-kun, she says, her voice soft, her expression worried. I take a deep breath. I'm fine, Himi. I need to see this. Thank you for being with me. She rests her head against my shoulder, still worried, still by my side. I look back at the papers. Next to the doctor's photo is his name, Yakumo Umurai, followed by some information such as age, date of birth, and quirk, passive sharpening, which passively sharpens any blade held by the user. There was also some additional random information, such as the fact that the doctor was nicknamed Jason by his former hospital colleagues. The nickname came from a Halloween party held by the hospital staff to help patients feel better and less distant during the day. Umurai showed up dressed as the classic serial killer, wearing a disturbingly well-made costume. There are some details and photos of the house where I was held. There are also notes referring to a human trafficking operation, the same one that resulted in the arrest of those who kept us on the ship. And then, photos of the doctor's office, along with several drawings of a child being tortured in terrible ways, drawings of me being torn apart, dismembered, burned, and broken. Himiko lets out a shaky breath upon seeing the drawings, burying her face in my shoulder. I place my hand on her head and gently stroke her hair as I continue turning the pages. The next photos are of the blood-stained surgical table and the operating room itself. Several notes describe the equipment found, including the blood bags, scalpels, and the blowtorch. For a moment, I'm there again. I feel the uncomfortable table against my back, the restraints holding me in place, the smell of dried blood and burnt flesh. The doctor's words and hysterical laughter echo in my mind. Tech. I take a deep breath and crack my fingers, pushing away the thoughts as I lean into Himiko, who looks back at the papers with me. I keep reading the documents. Next are photos of my cage. The sight of it makes me feel a deeply unpleasant and uncomfortable sensation. On another page, there's a photo of me sleeping, perhaps taken by the hospital staff, I'm not entirely sure when. There is some information about me, including age, name, and other details. The document doesn't seem very updated, since my quirk isn't included. Under family relations, my parents' names are not listed, only marked as unknown. Some notes appear below the profile, mentioning my Brazilian nationality, life on the streets, and my parents' deaths. Information gathered by detectives while I was in the hospital. A few more pages mention support and cooperation with the police in Brazil and other countries to deal with human traffickers. There isn't much in the report that I don't already know, which makes me sigh in relief. It means that anyone who had access to these documents wouldn't have much information about me. Himiko hugs me tightly, tears in her eyes. I wipe her tears with my thumb and return the embrace. The images are quite terrible, but they didn't affect me much since I've already overcome most of it with Himiko's help. Time to burn this. Thinking about it won't take me anywhere. I have someone to protect now. I have to be strong and discard the past to live the future with her, for her. I sink into Himiko's embrace, ready to burn the documents. A/N, I didn't feel the need to include anything, again, about the doctor's research on limb regeneration. In the end, it was all a facade for himself, disguising his pleasure in making others feel pain with the possibility of reconstructing his leg and having his name written in history books. If you'd like to support my work and receive bonuses such as 5 to 10 advanced chapters, spoilers, early access to my new books, polls, and more, check out P@TR30N, Condor 7 Chapter 25, 25 Class President. The next day, we are surprised by a crowd of reporters gathered in front of U.A.'s gate. When they see us in our UA uniforms, they quickly swarm around the two of us. Several microphones are pointed in our direction. I do my best not to activate my Kagune out of nervousness, but my appearance alone seems to make the reporters step back a little. Excuse me, what do you think about All Might as a teacher? One reporter asks. The microphone trembles slightly in her hand, but she remains steady. He's a good teacher. Could you clear the way? We need to get to our classroom. My answer doesn't seem to fully satisfy the crowd, but they make way anyway. In the distance, I can see other students arriving at the gate, probably about to go through the same experience. Sigh, the others won't get rid of them that easily. Himiko grumbles beside me as we pass by other students already inside the school complaining about the press. You should have used your Kagune, Kaneki-kun. It would have scared them off real quick, hee, Himiko says with a mischievous smile. Then I'd be causing trouble for Nizu-sensei and Yue, like a student threatening the press. I lightly flick her forehead as I say that. She rubs the spot I hit, pouting, but still with a playful glint in her eyes. We enter the classroom, with nearly half the class already present. Everyone is talking about the reporters and speculating about what we'll be doing today. We exchange greetings with them as we walk in. It doesn't take long for the others to arrive, including Aizawa, who goes straight to the teacher's desk and starts speaking, noticing that we've gone silent the moment he entered. I hope you've recovered from yesterday's battle. I took the liberty of reviewing your grades and evaluations, he begins, in his usual lazy tone. Then he scolds Bakugo regarding his maturity. Surprisingly, Bakugo accepts the reprimand without any drama. Nice, we're getting character development right in front of us, I think. The teacher also scolds Midoriya for constantly breaking his arm and other things. In the middle of the scolding, Himiko nudges me and leans in to whisper. Good thing you don't keep breaking your bones like Midoriya, Kaneki-kun, she says. I roll my eyes, or at least I think I did. I had already mentioned the idea that crossed my mind about breaking my bones to get a better result in the first day's exercise. Of course she wouldn't let that slide. Now, moving on to classroom announcements. I'm sorry to inform you all, but... Aizawa resumes speaking to the whole class after finishing the scolding. The entire class seems worried about the possibility of a surprise test or something like that. We need to choose a class representative, Aizawa finishes, making everyone sigh in relief. Finally, something from a normal school. The class bursts into excitement, most of them wanting to be representatives. Several hands shoot up, and speeches and promises begin to be thrown around. I look to my side and see Himiko with the same lack of interest as me in becoming a representative. Then, amid the chaos the classroom has become, a voice stands out. Silence. This is a position full of responsibility, where you must carry the weight of everyone. Just because you like doing it doesn't mean you can. Ida begins, passionately talking about responsibility. It is a great office that requires great esteem and... I mentally tune out the rest. Honestly, I think Ida would be a good representative, but he really needs to learn to relax sometimes, or he'll go bald by 18 at this rate. And that is why the class president should be decided by vote, he finishes, almost in tears from his own speech. It's still too early to build any trust in each other, Tsuyu says. So everyone will just vote for themselves. Kirishima adds. And that is precisely why the person who manages to gain several votes will be the one truly suited for the job, won't they? Ida counters, making exaggerated hand and arm movements. Is that all right, sensei? Ida asks Aizawa, who is already curling up in his sleeping bag for a nap. As long as you decide within the time limit, I don't care, the man says while lying down behind the teacher's desk. The voting takes place. I decide to write Himiko's name, both because of her earlier teasing and because I think she'd do well as either class representative or vice representative. The results are written on the board, most have 1 vote, but Midoriya wins with 3 votes, and Momo as vice, with 2. Why do I have 1 vote? I look to the side and see the culprit sticking her tongue out at me, giggling mischievously. We ended up voting for each other, pretty dumb on our part. I thought she would vote for Momo. I was going to vote for Yao Momo, but I received telepathic information that you were going to vote for me, hee hee. She makes exaggerated wave-like motions with her hands. You just saw me writing your name on the paper, didn't you? I narrow my eyes. She looks away, pretending to whistle. Time passes, and now in the cafeteria, I eat my lunch beside Himiko. We're sitting at a table with Toru, Tokoyami, and Mina, along with other students we don't know. Then suddenly, the alarm sounds with the following emergency message. Students, please evacuate immediately. Security level 3 has been breached. Panic spreads throughout the entire cafeteria. More experienced students say that security level 3 means the school has been infiltrated, and the crowd begins to squeeze into the previously spacious corridors. I hurry to protect Himiko from the crowd, people bumping and stumbling into me, but I remain firm, trying to guide us somewhere safer. The others are swept away by the crowd as well before I can help them. It's just reporters, I say after spotting the press through the cafeteria windows. Seriously? All this chaos just because of reporters? Himiko complains against my chest, more relaxed now that she knows there's no real danger. Then I look up and see Ida floating above the crowd, stopping in a strange pose on top of the cafeteria sign. Et. Himiko and I mutter at the same time upon seeing the strange scene. Everyone. Calm down. It's okay. It's only the press, there's no reason to panic. Ida shouts, making the crowd stop. You are at UA. Let's behave like students of the greatest academy, he continues, and finally people begin to settle down. Back in the classroom, when Midoriya and Momo are about to give their speeches as class president and vice president, Midoriya says he's passing the position to Ida, praising him for his actions during the earlier chaos. Nice, Midoriya is pretty mature to make a decision like that. I give a mental thumbs up, while remaining as neutral as ever on the outside. Aizawa doesn't seem to care, still in his sleeping bag, drinking some strange liquid from a pouch. Then Ida is selected as class president, delivering a passionate speech far longer than necessary. Yeah, at this rate, he's definitely going bald. If you'd like to support my work and receive bonuses such as 5 to 10 advanced chapters, spoilers, early access to my new books, polls, and more, check out P@TR30N, Condor 7 Chapter 26, 26A Couple Revealed. The next day, already in the afternoon, right after lunch, we wait for the teacher responsible for today's exercise. I still feel somewhat thirsty, even though I just ate and drank water. Noticing a particular gaze, I turn to the side and see Himiko looking at me, more specifically, at my neck. She glances from the corner of her eye, her cheek slightly flushed, and quickly looks away when she realizes I caught her staring. Looks like it's not just me. I take out my phone and send Himiko a message. Let's drink tonight when we get home. She quickly replies with A3. From where I sit, I can see her small smile as she reads the message. We've been training our resistance to bloodthirst for a few weeks now, going without drinking each other's blood. For Himiko, it's more about dealing with the craving and discomfort. For me, it's the same as hers, but it can also make me weaker. However, as long as I don't need to regenerate much or overuse my Kagune, it's fine to go without it, and since we're at UA, where training is safe, we can afford to do this. Aizawa enters the room, immediately silencing the students. He positions himself in front of the teacher's desk and gets our attention with an announcement. For Hero Foundation skills, it has been decided that you will be supervised by a team of 3 people, consisting of myself, All Might, and 1 other person. Siro raises his hand and asks, "Sensei, what are we going to do?" "It's rescue training. To become the heroes everyone will need, whether it's a flood or any other kind of disaster," the teacher says while holding a card that reads rescue. I'm not exactly sure when he raised that card. Rescue training, this sounds kind of tough this time. Kaminari says, looking anxious. For sure. Mina replies, sounding more excited than anything else. Let's go, this is every hero's job. I'm really pumped. Kirishima shouts, clenching his fists in excitement. If it's a flood, then it'll be my ideal scenario, Kuro, Tsuyu adds amid the students' excited murmurs. Don't get ahead of yourselves, Aizawa speaks again, walking toward the wall that holds our hero costumes. As I was saying, this time it's entirely up to you whether you want to wear your uniforms. Some of them probably won't be suitable for the task at hand. With a click of a remote, he unlocks the drawers. The training area is quite far, so we'll be taking a bus to get there. That's all, go get ready. It doesn't take long before we're standing in front of the buses. Ida tries to organize the students by registration number, but it ends up being pointless because of how the seats are arranged. I sit next to Himiko, along with the others on the larger bus seat. Ida seems a bit depressed over the time wasted on his failed attempt to organize seating. When the bus starts moving, Tsuyu turns to Midoriya and says, "Hey Midoriya, I always say what I think, no matter what's on my mind." "Ah. Why yes. Ajui." Midoriya is startled out of his thoughts. "Call me Tsuyu," she says quickly, then continues. "Your quirk reminds me of All Might's." She speaks thoughtfully, pressing her index finger against her cheek and tilting her head slightly. How so? Haha, but mine isn't like Midoriya seems strangely nervous. I don't really see why he'd feel uncomfortable about that, his hero costume already shows he's a huge All Might fanboy. Kirishima interrupts, pointing out that All Might doesn't get injured when using his quirk, and that's where the similarity between them ends. He keeps talking, mentioning he wishes he had a flashier quirk. Midoriya praises his popularity, saying it's very useful for professionals. Then Tsuyu turns to me and Himiko. "Another thing, Toga-chan, Kaneki-kun, I think your relationship is really cute. You two are adorable together, Kuro," she says with the same thoughtful expression, though I catch a teasing glint in her eyes. Kaminari and Mina's eyes light up at the opportunity to tease us. Kaminari starts. "Right. You're always stuck together. Are you two dating?" "Hee," Mina says, giggling behind her hand. "Yes." Himiko and I answer immediately, at the same time. The bus goes silent for a few seconds, then everyone shouts. "Way-ay-ah." Himiko and I glance at each other, then look back at them and nod in confirmation, perfectly synchronized. It was obvious they were a couple, guys. Momo says, though internally it's as if the pieces of a puzzle have just fallen into place in her mind. Some time passes as we answer a few questions they have about our relationship, things like how many years we've been together, how old we were when we started dating, and other questions like that. Then I remember something that's been on my mind for the past few days. I call out to Midoriya, who already seems to have recovered from Tsuyu's earlier question. "Midoriya, do you happen to have a brother named Sato?" Sato? No, I don't even have a brother." "Why?" He looks startled at being called out of nowhere, then confused after understanding the question. "It's a guy who studied with me during middle school. He looks a lot like you, at least in appearance." My answer only makes him more confused. "You're identical, right, Himi?" I turn to Himiko. She looks thoughtful, narrowing her eyes as she tries to recall, and I make a strong effort not to pinch her cheeks while she does that. Sato. Did we have someone with that name in class?" She doesn't seem to remember. I can't blame her, we barely talked to others in middle school. I take out my phone and look for a group photo from our class, taken by the teacher on the first day of the final year of middle school. After showing it to Himiko and her finally recognizing him, I show it to Midoriya and the others. He really does look a lot like me. Midoriya says, both intrigued and unsettled. I don't see many differences. Yeah. It's kind of creepy, to be honest. Looks like Midoriya has a doppelganger walking around out there. We're almost there, calm down, Aizawa interrupts the commotion. Yes, sir, the students reply. A/N, UA is the most prestigious hero school in Japan, so it's okay to train a little, safety is guaranteed. What could possibly go wrong? If you'd like to support my work and receive bonuses such as 5 to 10 advanced chapters, spoilers, early access to my new books, polls, and more, check out P@TR30N, Condor 7 Chapter 27, 27 USJ. We finally arrive at the rescue training facility. It's a massive place, divided into several different areas, one simulating a landslide, another a fire, and many other disaster scenarios where we could train and learn how to deal with them. I was excited, and so were the others. This is a practical training area I created to simulate all kinds of accidents and disasters, and its name is, the ultimate space for jams, said a figure dressed like an astronaut. It's the Space Hero 13. Midoriya says. Beside him, Yurika looks just as excited at the heroine's presence. 13 and Aizawa talk for a bit. It seems All Might won't be participating for now. Before we begin, just one thing, or two, or three, or four. It keeps increasing. I'm sure you already know this, but my quirk is called Black Hole. It's a quirk perfect for removing debris and rescuing people injured in disasters. Midoriya adds, and Yurika nods enthusiastically. Yes, however, this is a power that can easily be used to kill people. The excited murmurs stop, and everyone pays closer attention to 13's words. Please don't forget that each of you possesses a quirk that can cause an accident. One wrong step is enough to accidentally kill someone. And during All Might's battle test, I believe you lost your sense of danger, abusing those powers against one another. This lesson will serve as a new beginning. Let's learn how to use our quirks to save human lives. Your quirks do not exist to harm others. I can't help but reflect on myself after hearing 13's words. It's hard to believe when my quirk turns me into a perfect weapon for killing humans, like a combination of a ghoul and a vampire. A soft touch on my arm pulls me out of my thoughts. I see Himiko smiling at me. I manage to return a soft smile that goes unnoticed despite the crowd around us. We hold each other's hands, fingers intertwined. That last action doesn't go unnoticed. I can hear Mina, Toru, and the other girls sigh softly before turning their attention back to 13. Please take this exercise as a full understanding that your quirks exist to help people. That's all. I'm grateful for your attentive and patient listening. She finishes her speech with a theatrical bow. We applaud and thank 13 for her words. All right, the first thing Aizawa begins, but the lights in the USJ start flickering, and the power goes out completely. Then something strange appears in front of the fountain at the center of the USJ. Several people with threatening appearances begin to emerge. I'm sure it's a portal. Group up and don't move. 13. Protect the students. Aizawa shouts. Most of the students seem more confused than scared. I pull Himiko closer to me and activate my Rinkaku. The 4 tentacles hover defensively in front of us. Is this like that training pattern from the entrance exam? Kirishima asks, not realizing how dangerous the situation has become. Aizawa gives another order, already putting on his famous goggles. Don't move. They're villains. Those words finally seem to alert the students. I look around, no villain trying to sneak around, not even one coming from behind, which feels strange, especially since one of them has a teleportation ability. Eraserhead and 13, according to the teacher schedules we acquired yesterday, Mr. All Might was supposed to be here, and yet, says a strange figure that looks like a mass of dark smoke wearing an elegant bartender suit. So what happened yesterday was your doing, you troublemakers. Aizawa says as he unwraps his scarf. Where is he? We went through all this trouble and gathered so many of us. You can't tell me All Might, the symbol of peace, is not here. Says a pale, thin figure with strange hands scattered across his body, one of them covering his face. I wonder, will he appear if I kill the children, he adds threateningly. Be villains. Sensei. What about the intrusion alarms? Momo asks. Apparently, one of the villains must have a quirk that disabled them. Aizawa throws himself into the group of villains after briefly speaking to the students. I don't pay much attention to what he says, because I'm focused on a specific figure standing out among the villains. A muscular man, as tall as All Might, with a somewhat triangular face and his brain exposed outside his skull. But it's not exactly his appearance that catches my attention, it's his lifeless eyes, like a doll, a puppet. I feel a sense of danger coming from that guy. While Aizawa deals with the large group of villains, we begin evacuating the USJ, but we don't get far before a portal opens in our path, and the suited figure appears in front of us. I'm afraid I can't allow that, he begins. Greetings, we are the League of Villains. I apologize for the presumption, but we took the opportunity to enter UA Academy, the base of heroes. The man continues speaking in an elegant tone, despite the subject being literally about killing All Might. I see 13 opening the finger of her suit, indicating she's ready to act. Stepping in front of her would only get in her way, and be stupid, and Kirishima and Bakugo leap forward and attack the man, or rather, try to attack him. He disperses into smoke and reappears. That was quite dangerous, but expected. Though you are mere students, you are also the golden eggs of the hero world. 13 shouts for the two to run, but it's already too late. The man activates his quirk again, enveloping the students in smoke. I try to retreat with Himiko while covering us with my Rinkaku, but we get caught. A/N, here's an image of Kanaki's Kaukaku, it should have the gauntlet covering his entire arm, but the AI was doing strange things, so I'll try again later. If you'd like to support my work and receive bonuses such as 5 to 10 advanced chapters, spoilers, early access to my new books, polls, and more, check out P@TR30N, Condor 7 Chapter 28, 28 Fire Zone. In the blink of an eye, I find myself in a completely different area. The hot air seems to slowly burn my lungs. Still holding Himiko, we're falling from a considerable height into the USJ's fire zone. I take the chance to look at the massive place while positioning my Kagune so we don't splatter on the ground. Help me find the exit, Himi. I say, having to lean close to her ear because of the wind noise. She nods and lifts herself slightly on my shoulder, looking in the opposite direction from me. As I search, I notice something peculiar. Not far from us, a pair of gloves and boots are falling freely. I understand what it is when the gloves seem to turn toward me, shaking frantically from side to side. Toru. I don't wait for a response before wrapping her with my Kagune. I use the other 3 to slow our descent against a burning building, then plant them into the ground and lower us gently into the middle of the street. The buzzing I'd been hearing since the fall suddenly makes sense as Toru keeps screaming even after I set her down. It's a high-pitched, painful sound to hear. Toru-chan, we're already on the ground. Himiko places a hand on Toru's invisible shoulder, which makes her stop screaming, take a deep breath, and sigh in relief. While Himiko helps Toru recover, I notice movement amid the chaos of the burning city. Kaneki-kun, Himiko calls, supporting Toru on her shoulder. Yeah. I reply, quickly switching my Kagune to a half and half Kaukaku and Rinkaku, forming a shield on one arm and using it to block a barrage of gunfire. Ha, you won't be able to hide behind that forever. The villain's cliché speech is cut off as one of my Rinkaku tentacles wraps around his leg, lifting him into the air before hurling him away. Ah! His scream echoes into the distance. I retract the Kaukaku shield that was sharing space with two Rinkaku tentacles, keeping only the Rinkaku active, all four tentacles now out. There should be more of them around here. Did you find the exit, Himi? It's that way, she points. Then let's not waste time here. Feeling better, Toru? The gloves give a thumbs up in confirmation. Alright, let's go. I pick Himiko up in my arms and grab Toru with one of my tentacles, then start leaping across buildings, avoiding getting too close to the flames, using only my Kagune to move instead of my body. Himiko puts on her mask because of the smoke. I hand mine to Toru, and we keep moving. We spot a few villains along the way, and I deal with them the same way, throwing them into the air. It doesn't take long for us to find the exit. As we leave the fire zone, we see the chaos unfolding in the USJ. Clouds of dust rise from the other disaster zones. Some students are still fighting on the staircase, and in the center, Aizawa seems to be in serious trouble fighting the dead-eyed man with the strange face and the pale skinny one covered in hands. Help the others. I'll head to the center and help the teacher. I tell them. Himiko hesitates but knows it might be the best option. Be careful, Kaneki-kun. You too, Himi. I gently touch her face. She places her hand over mine, and we slowly lean closer. Cough. Toru interrupts our moment. She is holding a candle. Literally. I have no idea where she got it. I dash toward the center of the USJ, where Aizawa is fighting. He's being completely overwhelmed by the muscular man, pinned to the ground, the man seemingly about to start breaking his bones. Avoiding the villains along the way, I keep running, using my Kagune to boost my speed. When I finally reach him, I use all the momentum from my run to land a precise punch on his beak-shaped jaw. The punch makes a thunderous sound, but I freeze for a moment when I see the creature completely unharmed, staring directly at me with those lifeless eyes. I use my tentacles to pull myself away from the counterattack he throws. Even without hitting me directly, the punch seems to cut my skin with the air it moves. I jump farther back, pulling Aizawa with me using my Kagune. He looks to be in bad shape, one elbow is badly shattered, and one arm is broken, besides being extremely exhausted. Kaneki. I told you not to get involved, but thank you. I set him down. He manages to stay standing despite being heavily injured. This is unexpected, but it changes nothing. Nomu, kill them both, the hand-covered man commands. Watch out. Aizawa shouts upon hearing the command. He seems ready to pull me away, but I gesture to him, wanting to test something. He hesitates, then accepts, and begins moving out of Nomu's range. The creature lunges forward at absurd speed, targeting me since I'm closer than Aizawa. I activate my Kaukaku fully this time, forming a shield that covers my arm with a blade at the tip. The punch slams hard against my Kagune, which cracks slightly. I'm sent backward but manage to keep my footing, dragged along by the force. Damn, it broke my Kaukaku. The Kagune regenerates quickly, but taking damage like that is worrying. Maybe it's weaker because of the lack of blood, but still. Nomu charges at me again. I need to slow this thing down. Nomu's punch thunders through the air. I dodge to the side and slice his ankle with my Kaukaku blade. He stumbles slightly, but his head turns toward me with no sign of pain. My eyes widen again as I see the cut regenerate rapidly. The Nomu spins his body, throwing a rotating punch at me. I barely manage to block it with my Kaukaku, but I'm sent flying. My body crashes into a tree, which breaks on impact. I get up with some difficulty. Damn, something in my back broke. He's strong. My bones regenerate with audible cracks, but much slower than usual. I straighten my posture and spit some blood to the side. My Kaukaku regenerates as well, but just like my bones, it feels slower. I move back toward Nomua, who luckily is now fully focused on me, perhaps discarding Aizawa due to his injuries or because I'm closer. I'm not sure. I circle the creature, trying to find some weakness while dodging its advances. Blunt attacks don't work. I can cut it, but it just regenerates. Aizawa joins me, having finished taking down and restraining some minor villains that could get in the way, despite his injuries. Sensei, how do we deal with this? I ask during a brief moment to breathe. I don't know. The creature attacks us again. I help Aizawa dodge while having switched to my Rinkaku for greater mobility. Tisk, just finish them already, Nomua, the pale man speaks again. Then Nomu suddenly increases his speed drastically, charging at us. It got faster. I quickly throw Aizawa away with my Kagune. I dodge a punch that passes dangerously close to my head. This time, the pressure in the air actually cuts my skin from how close it was. I try to jump away like before, but this time he grabs my leg, and then... crack. If you'd like to support my work and receive bonuses such as 5 to 10 advanced chapters, spoilers, early access to my new books, polls, and more, check out P@TR30N, Condor 7.